This is our third art lesson for our Tingatinga art. So today we're going to be producing our final piece based on Edward Tingatinga's artwork that we've been looking at over the last 2 weeks. We're going to be trying to recreate his work and incorporating the patterns and the tones that we looked at last week as well. So what you're going to need before you start this video is you are going to need to stain a piece of paper or paint a piece of paper with a light colour that you can draw over the top of. So I'm going to show you a little trick that you can use food colouring, which works really well. But if you have paint, that's fine, you can use that, but I just know that some of you don't. So before you actually are able to continue drawing and everything like that, you're going to need your paper to dry. So I would do this maybe a day before you want to actually complete your art challenge. So the first thing that I show you is going to need to be done before we finish the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I stained my paper using food colouring and water. So the first things that you're going to need if you're going to use the food colouring method like I did is a bottle of food colouring. I've used yellow because I want it to be a nice bright and quite a light coloured background, but there are different colours that you can get. You can use blue, green, red. There's lots of different colours, so it depends what you want your background to look like. But remember that we are going to draw on top of it, so we don't want it to be too dark. You're going to need a paintbrush of some kind, so here's mine. And you're going to need a little bowl. You need to mix a little bit of food colouring and a little bit of water together in the bowl, about half and half. I haven't used much food colouring though. If you look at how much has gone out of the bottle, there's hardly anything, so you don't need loads. And you just need a little bit of water to mix it with. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to dip my paintbrush in the bowl and I'm just going to spread it on the paper. Okay, and it will dry and it will make a really nice bright background, a bit like the ones that Tingatinga used in his artwork. Okay. But like I was saying, you will need to wait for this to dry for probably about a day, but maybe a little bit longer. Okay. So you're just going to fill in the whole background. And then leave it to dry. What I should have mentioned as well is that you need to put something underneath this, because if you have it straight on a table, and it probably will stain because it's a bit like a dye. Okay, so I've used some scrap paper and I've just put it underneath quite a few layers of scrap paper, but you could use a tablecloth, you could use some newspaper, okay, or anything you've got at home. So there's my background stained. Now I'm just going to show you what it's going to look like when it's dry, because I actually did one yesterday so that I could start drawing on top of it. So I've got a dry one here, which is what I'm going to use today. Okay, so I'm going to move this one out of the way and then I'm going to start drawing on top of my dry one. So the next things I'm going to need are a pencil, because I'm going to actually be sketching my design onto my dried paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the examples onto the video now so that you can have another look at them and have a think about which one you would like to do, and think about which ones will allow you to use the patterns that you practiced last week and perhaps your favourite pattern. It doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be the same colour as they are on here, because it's your example, it's your interpretation. It can be a different colour background with a different animal on it. So you have a look now and have a think about which one you are going to choose. Okay, I've decided that I am going to try and do the leopard or cheetah, I'm not sure what it is, with the red background, but I'm going to do it on here obviously. So I've chosen this one because it's got quite simple shapes, and also I really like the spots on it, and I might add a bit of extra detail into the background, or I might add a border to it. But I'm going to start off by trying to sketch the simple shapes of the leopard. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to recap how I do sketching. So what we don't want to do is press really hard with our pencil, because then if we make a mistake, we're not going to be able to turn it into something else, because we don't use rubbers for art. We don't need to use a rubber. We can turn something into something else if we're sketching very lightly. So we may not be able to really see mine show up too much at first, but that is how I want it to be. So I'm doing really light sketches. I'm trying to draw the head first of all. Okay, so if you make sure that when you're doing yours, you sketch like I've done. Okay, so I'll just do the first little bit with you, and then I'll skip ahead in the video until I've finished most of my drawing. So I'm going to do the ears now. So I'm just really looking at those simple shapes. So it's a bit like a teardrop for the ear. And like, hopefully you can see, mine's not too neat at the moment, but it will be when I've finished. Okay, you won't be able to see all of the different lines that I've done once I've finished. I'm going to put a bit of detail onto the face before I have a go of doing the body. And I'm looking at the example the whole time because I really want to try and copy the design that Edward Tingatinga's done and really try and use his example. So I'm doing sort of teardrop shaped eyes. Okay, and then what I'll do at the end is I'll go back and I'll fill in all of the detail with the patterns. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the rest of my drawing now, and then by the end, when I've finished, I will show you what it looks like and we can get on with the next step. So here you can see I've completed my drawing. I've completed the body and I've also put a border around the edge. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to decide what colour I want to fill the body and the head of my leopard / cheetah. So I'm not going to use realistic colours. I'm going to use a red, I've decided, because I want mine to be quite abstract, because not all of Edward Tingatinga's artwork was realistic, some of it was abstract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start colouring it in, but I need to remember that I am going to put some pattern over the top of it using a black pen. So if you want your patterns to be a different colour to black, or in a colour that you don't have a felt tip for, then you might want to start drawing your patterns on now. So if I was going to do my spots all over, then I would draw them now and I would colour around those patterns. But I'm going to fill mine in afterwards with a black felt tip so they stand out nice and vibrantly. So I don't need to do that now, I'm going to do it after. So what I need to remember is how vibrant I want my colours to be. So I need to remember that I pressed quite hard to get a vibrant tone. Now, it's not looking as vibrant when I'm using it on this dyed paper, and I think that's because of the food colouring, but if I press hard, I can still make it look quite vibrant. Okay, and you need to decide what kind of tone you want, whether you want it to be light or dark or vibrant. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and colour the whole thing in red, and then I'm going to use my black pen afterwards to fill in the detail. Okay, so I'll come back shortly and you will see the whole thing coloured in, ready to do some patterns. Okay, so it's taken me a little while to try and make it neat and to press as hard as I could with the coloured pencils, but I have now completed the colouring in for my leopard. So I'm going to now give it its spots, and I'm going to do some other patterns on there as well, which I'm going to use a black felt tip pen for. So I'm going to draw the circles, draw the spots, and then colour them in. And I'm going to do this all over the leopard. because we want lots of vibrant patterns. And what I'm going to do after that is, so I'll just show you now, is I'm going to go around the outside of the shapes that I created before to make it look, to make it stand out. Okay, because we want it to stand out as much as possible, because that's what Edward Tingatinga had done in his artwork, and it all really stands out. So just being as careful as you can to trace around the shapes that you drew earlier. So I'm going to finish this and then I will come back and show you what it looks like. So you can see that I've nearly done. I've just gone around all of the edges of my animal with the black pen. Then I've gone in and I've filled it in with the patterns that I wanted to use. So I've used some spots here and I've used some lines around the ears and on the tail. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the patterns that I liked from last week to fill in the border. So I'm going to use the one where it was like 3 lines going one way and then 3 lines going the other way. And I'm going to keep doing that all around the border just to give it a bit of a different effect, and so I can practice using those patterns from last time. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that all the way around, going the opposite way. And you can see it just makes a really nice effect. And even though my leopard isn't the same colours that a normal leopard is, you can definitely tell it's a leopard because of the patterns and spots on it. And it really looks like a piece of Tingatinga artwork because of all of the styles that we've used. Okay, so I'll just do the last bit and then I'll show you the final product if I'm happy with it. I didn't say before, but if you have got paint at home, then you might want to actually fill in the animal with paint. It's up to you. I don't have any, so, and I know that lots of you won't, so that's why I've done it mine with pencil crayon, but you can use whatever you want. Oil pastels as well are really good because they're really vibrant if you've got those. Okay, but I know that not many of you will have. So here is my finished piece of Tingatinga artwork with all of the features that we've been looking at over the last few weeks. I'll just show you a little bit more clearly what it looks like now when it's standing up, so you can see it more clearly. So what I want you to do is to try and create your own piece of Tingatinga artwork. I know that you won't have all of the things that you need, but just try and make do with anything that you can around the home. Make sure that you ask your grown-up at home to help you to find things, and don't use anything without asking them first, okay? So I'm going to be really looking forward to seeing your artwork on Seesaw, so get sending it in and I'll be really excited to see it. See you next time.